winter time. There's all kinds of winters. The winter when you can't figure it out, the winter when it all goes wrong. The down time, the discouraging time, when your heart is smashed in 1,000 pieces. The nights are unusually long. Now the question is, what do you do about the winters? Here's what you can do. Get stronger. If you're willing to do the push-ups, you can get stronger. If you're willing to put yourself through the paces, you can get stronger. Start practicing. Can you get stronger in handling life situations? Of course. But you got to go to work on yourself. You can't blame out there wishing it was easier. Wish you were stronger. Don't wish away the winters. That's called naive. Get stronger.
Previously on the Last Kingdom review episode.
But the question is, like, how long do you think it's going to take? Do you expect Shin to take Kyou's head right now? Or do you think it may take a couple of days? Me, in my opinion, I kind of think it's going to take a couple of days, because I think they're going to kind of have their first initial clash here, and then somehow their fight will probably wind up getting interrupted, where they'll have to kind of like postpone it for the next day. What is up, YouTube? Live via satellite here, and today we are talking Kingdom, Manga chapter 549. And yeah, it looks like we got something right for once. So guess what? We're going to take some credit. We are going to take some credit. Because Lord knows, when you get something wrong on YouTube, you are reminded, and you are reminded often. So if you got to take the lumps when you get something wrong, then I guess you should enjoy it when you get something right. I mean, no joke, I am still getting flack for a video I made over a year ago. So yeah, when you can get a W no matter how small, you got to take it. But yeah, this chapter was amazing. Watching Kyoukai go in was just ridiculous. But it was also cool to see that Kanto and Shin, on their own respective levels, both need to find a way to get stronger. Because you can see that Kanto wants to become more of a dependable fighter, where he can at least help protect some of the members of his own squad. And Shin doesn't stand a chance against Kyou, who claims to only be using half his power if he doesn't go to the next level. But you know what they say, no pain, no gain. Alright, so the chapter starts out with a beautiful panel of Kyoukai, and it actually looks like it's meant to show that she's already in battle and dodging enemy spears. And at the anchor points, we see from Sosui and Garo that things are pretty bad at the center. So bad, in fact, that they really don't know how things are going to turn out. And Garo just has a look on his face like he hopes Kyoukai made the right decision here. Over in the center, things are brutal. It looks like an endless sea of Zao coming to wipe out the Aishin unit. And you can see this is really wearing down the new guys. Heirai says his heart can barely take it anymore, but Kanto tells him to quit his bitching. And out of the corner of his eye, you can see him notice something. And Kanto gets to see firsthand how strong Sugen is. And he's shocked to see what it really looks like when an infantry commander gets serious. And it's kind of funny that Kanto's surprised here. I guess he didn't think that Sugen was the master that he said he was.
You want me to show you tough? I'll show you tough. Hey! 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 Hey!
And Bihei jumps in to let Kanto know that yeah, he's gotten pretty good since he's been sparring from time to time with Kyoukai. And then Kanto shows just how new to the Aishin unit he is, because he asks a question that borders blasphemy. Asking Bihei, does that mean that the lieutenant is even stronger? And Bihei lets him know, of course she is. And when she gets serious, it's like she's not even human anymore. And I really enjoyed this part of the chapter because now we see that the members of the Aishin unit have been growing as well. It isn't just like Shin and Kyoukai have been getting better. All the guys from Sugen to Shosa to guys like that, they've all been trying to improve their skills. And seeing how long Bihei's been able to survive, I'm pretty sure he's improved a bit as well. And then we get to see Kyoukai dancing, taking no prisoners.
I think big, get cash, make them blink fast. Now look at what you just saw. This is what you live for. I'm a motherfucking monster!
And the Zao soldiers cannot comprehend what this woman has just done. They even call her a monster. But then we see that Kyoukai needs to pause to take a breath. And we see Kyoukai pull an Osen-esque move here, where she has her men shield her as she catches her breath. And the Zao pick up on this, realizing that she doesn't have enough stamina to continue, and that now's the perfect time to strike before she's fully recovered. But Kyoukai's men are able to hold them off, and while they're holding them off, Kyoukai starts having a conversation with her sword Ryokusui, which I actually liked a lot because it's been a while since we actually seen her talk to her sword. And it actually started to make me think, could Kyoukai actually do the priestess dance if she didn't have her sword? Because her sword is like the catalyst to help her contact the violent gods. So for example, what I'm wondering is if she lost her sword, could she pick up any random sword and still be able to contact the violent gods? Because I'm kind of thinking no, but I don't know if we've ever seen that before. Another interesting dynamic when it comes to the sword is that we as the reader never see what the sword actually says, but obviously Kyoukai can hear it. And what it appears to be asking her this time is why she stopped her dance so early. And Kyoukai responds by saying she knows she's stopping early, but she's doing it on purpose to catch some of her breath, because by doing it this way, it allows her to be able to fight for longer periods of time. And she knows that in order to have a chance at winning this battle, she'll need to cut down as many enemies as possible. And with that, she tells Bunjin that's enough and she jumps back into the fray. Then we get an overhead view just to see how messy the center has become. And as people are getting taken down left and right, all Garo, Sosui, and Ten can do is look on and hope that Kyoukai is able to come through for them. Then we move over to Kanto, who looks like he's won a battle that appeared to be a struggle for his life. But he managed to come out victorious, and I have to say, this kill is a whole lot better than the first kill we saw Kanto get this battle. Because you have to admit, that one was kind of a cheap shot. And as Kanto gets up, he begins to realize what has happened on this battlefield. As he stands on the battlefield surrounded by nothing but dead bodies, he realizes that a lot of these fallen soldiers are some of his own comrades and fellow new recruits. And this really hits him hard to the point that he's crying and screaming out in anguish. And I really wanted to look at some of these faces and see if his closest friend like Heirai was in there, but I don't think I really noticed him amongst these bodies. You know, I'm sure he still knew these guys and it bothers him, but I think some of the other newbies that we've seen more of are still actually going to be alive. But this is also good development for Kanto because this is the type of pain that's going to help him to become stronger in the future. Over at Ohan, they're starting to realize that the day is almost over. But on the other side of the battlefield, there is still a clash going on between Kyou and Shin. And the first thing we see on this battlefield is Shin getting hammered. But no matter how many times Shin gets hit, he manages to bounce back up. And it appears as if they've been going at it for hours. Gyun's men cannot believe how tough Shin is. And as Shin and Kyou stare each other down, they're interrupted by riders. And it turns out to be Haro, and Haro comes saying that things have calmed down on the left side, so they came over to give him a hand. But Shin tells Haro not to butt in, because he's finally starting to get used to Oki's glaive, and with just a bit more, he'll be able to take Kyou out here and now. But just from a glance, Haro can see that Shin is at his limits. But he tells him he believes him, but he needs to save it for tomorrow. They don't have the strength for another clash. And Haro did a smart thing here. He knows that Shin's the type of person who would never admit that he was at his limit, even if he was.
I can't believe how drunk you are.
I am not drunk.
Yes, you are.
I am not fucking drunk.
Can you tell the time?
Yes. I am not fucking drunk.
And with the sun setting and Kyou also looking a bit exhausted, one of his officers says that even though it loathes him to say it, it's time that they call it quits for today. But he doesn't stop just there, saying that he also got ill tidings from the other side of the battlefield where the Great Blaze was, and that they've been unable to clinch victory despite all the fierce fighting. Hearing this, Shin immediately thinks of Kyoukai. And hearing this news, Kyou is disgusted. And he's not disgusted with anyone but himself, wondering if he's really become so pitiful, if his instincts and his strength has dulled so much since he's last been on the battlefield. He even claims he was only able to use half of his glaive strength. And with that, Kyou decides to set off to see what exactly happened with his own eyes to his great blaze. And as Kyou's leaving, Shin tells him to hold it. Is he trying to run away from their duel? But being so exhausted, he cannot even give chase. He literally falls to the ground as his body can take no more. And Haro and the other soldiers rush to Shin's aid. Then we see Kyou rushing across the battlefield, where he arrives to find hundreds, if not thousands of troops massacred. And at the center of this graveyard stands a blood-drenched Kyoukai. Kyun and his men cannot believe what they are seeing. With the new enemy's arrival, Kyoukai's men jump in front of her, saying they only need to hold out till Garou and Sosui arrive, who aren't too far behind. And as one of Gyun's officers is letting him know that it's too late in the day to start another clash, Gyun's mind wanders off elsewhere, where it's at this moment that he begins to realize that he made 3 miscalculations.
Now you see now, you done fucked up, you know that, don't you?
I
See what I'm saying?
No, I thought...
No, so, you know what I'm saying? That you done fucked up now, you know that, don't you?
The first was that Shin was able to predict his surprise attack on his HQ. The second was that Shin was actually able to hold him off. And the third was that the High Shin unit would have an officer that was capable of influencing the battle other than Shin. And then we find out that the blaze that was meant to destroy the High Shin unit wound up burning both sides evenly. And that upon seeing Kyoukai drenched in blood, Gil-eun for an instant had an image of a certain 6th grade general flash in his mind. And it was here that he was forced to reevaluate his opinion of the High Shin unit and realize that they'd be a much tougher opponent than he originally expected. And as we see an exhausted Kyoukai standing there, in her head she's thinking that she can barely stand at all. And of course, that she's starving too. And that was the chapter in a nutshell, guys. And this was a pretty hyped chapter of Kingdom, guys. I really enjoyed it. I mean, obviously it seems like the 6th grade general that Gyun is talking about is Kyou, but that's kind of the natural assumption seeing as they're both females. Not really too sure if they'll ever bring it back up again for us to actually know who he was talking about, but if they don't, then Haru's pretty much saying that's who it is. And this is real high praise for Kyoukai to be compared to one of the 6th grade generals, and it's honestly well deserved. I mean, she almost single-handedly was responsible for the High Shin unit being able to survive this battle. From her being able to come up with this plan initially, and even the way she executed was all well done, because her knowing her own weakness with her short stamina and having a plan to work around it so that she'd be able to kill more enemies was really smart, and it shows now how she's able to depend on others. The only thing I really don't like about her being compared to Kyou is we all know what happened to Kyou in the end. And seeing as Shin and Kyoukai's relationship has a lot of parallels to Oki and Kyou's relationship, I really hope these comparisons aren't foreshadowing ominous things for Kyoukai's future. But after rereading this chapter and going over things, I actually think that Gyun didn't just make those 3 mistakes, I think that he made 4. And the 4th mistake, I'm going to say, was his arrogance. Because if you really think about it, there's no way that Riboku didn't inform and give intel to Gyun about Shin and Kyoukai. So to me, I think this just shows how arrogant Gyun actually was, because even when we see him first arrive on the battlefield and Shigaru's trying to give him information about Ohan, he cuts him off and says it matters not, and that you should worry about yourself before you worry about your enemies. So you can see that Gyun's not the type to really accept the intel or advice that other people are trying to give him. He had such an arrogant attitude, he just thought whoever was on this battlefield, it really didn't matter. And this experience actually seemed to humble him a bit, because he even questions how pitiful he's gotten over the years. And I really like this chapter how Shin and Kyoukai had to go all out just to break even. Like neither army won this battle. They really just ended in pretty much a draw, which I guess you could see as a victory for the Quinn side, as they shouldn't have been able to keep up with somebody of Gyun's caliber. And I'm very interested to see what the nighttime of the 3rd day brings, if Shin and Ohan get together and start to come up with plans, or if Shin is so beat up and so tired that maybe he doesn't even wake up until the next day. But one thing I would love to see, if Shin actually does manage to pull himself together on the 3rd night, is maybe him sitting down with some of the new guys who have lost so many men. And even if it's not Shin, maybe it'd be an officer like Sugen, and letting them know that this time was like these, where it's time to drink and party for all your fallen comrades and get your mind right for the next day of battle. But anyway, guys, that about does it for this week's review. Let me know what you guys thought of the chapter in the comment section below. Please leave a like if you guys enjoyed the video, and feel free to share, comment, and subscribe. Peace out!